Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Unpacking video. We are so thankful that you took time out of your week to sit down and watch. If you haven't already, we encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and to leave us a like and a comment as well. With that, let's go ahead and get into this week's Unpacking video. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Unpacking, and today we're switching it up. We aren't sitting down with Pastor Darren, we are actually talking to Pastor Lynette today. It's been a hot minute since you've been on the episodes.
Yeah, I guess it has. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, it's been a good number of weeks, I think, since your radical message, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's been a hot minute ago.
It was. I slept since then.
I've slept a lot since then. But this weekend, we switched things up. We didn't go along with the radical series. We instead started another, what I'm calling it a mini series, because it's kind of a break from radical, but we haven't decided to fully end radical yet. It's just a little break in between. So it's like Radical Part 11 was the mid-season finale. We're taking a couple weeks off, and then we're coming in later to finish it off.
Yeah, like they do summertime.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So this weekend, the mini-series that you started, that you kicked off, is a mini-series titled Dethroned. And this is one of those series that you've been wanting to do for a long time, that you've talked about doing for a while. And it wasn't a matter of if you're going to do it, it's a matter of when you're going to do it. Yeah. And you kind of felt like God gave you the okay to launch into it. And you launched into it on a high note this weekend. You came in hot, so
good.
It was really good. Yes, it's a really good thing.
Oh, good.
But for those of you who didn't get to watch the sermon yet, or maybe you just like to watch the Unpacking videos instead of watching the sermon, which that's totally okay too. The whole point of this series is to basically highlight the Jezebel spirit, but not just the Jezebel spirit, but also the Ahab spirit, which is needed in order for the Jezebel spirit to operate. But we're not just talking about them, and we're not just bringing to light what they are. It's how to combat them. Dethroning them, exactly. Yeah. Hence the title of the series, Dethroned. It's taking care of business whenever it comes down to it. And I told you this on Sunday. A lot of the times when you hear about the Jezebel spirit or hear a church speaking on it, or at least for myself, I'll say personally, I don't know what other people's experience with this is. But a lot of the times a church will talk about the Jezebel spirit, or I'll hear the Jezebel spirit mentioned. And the way that it's talked about is, here's the Jezebel spirit, she's coming to take your lunch money, watch out. Like we're taught.
Oh no.
Yeah, exactly. We're taught that there's a big exclamation mark over it, and that we need to have caution when operating around it, or we need to be cautious of it, and we need to really, honestly, it's been a thing that I've seen, be fearful of this, because it's going to come and whoop up on you.
I would agree. Yeah.
And there's no resolution to those messages. This is the Jezebel spirit. Watch out. She's wearing red lipstick and fishnets. And
right.
I can't say that. I almost said something bad. She's gonna.
We'll just leave it right there.
She's gonna get you, you know? But that's the extent of what I hear in a lot of messages. But this weekend, you talked about kind of getting into that topic of dethroning. So I'll quit talking and I'll quit blabbing, and now I'll let you go ahead and do what this whole thing is about and unpack your message from this weekend.
Well, I think you did a great job right there.
Well, yeah. I didn't mean to be the one to unpack it.
No, I love your perspective, and that was the thing coming into this. I have had this sitting with a pin in it in my mental corkboard. Do people even use corkboards anymore?
I think that you may see them in an office every now and again, but people will put motivating stuff in there, like the kitten hanging on the tree that says hang in there, from a copier that's running out of ink.
Yeah. So I've had this next to the kitten poster for, it could be well over a year. I've been just thinking on it because I had questions in my mind that if I was going to talk about it, there were certain things, as I said on Sunday, I kept putting myself in the position of being a person sitting in the seats. And if I was sitting in the seat, this is what I would want to know. And first and foremost, I kept asking myself, why do they care? Like, if I'm going to talk about this from a church perspective or a pastor's perspective, a minister's perspective, I know why I want to know about it. But if I am sitting in a row, which I want to clarify that every person sitting in a row is sitting in a chair has a ministry as well. We're all called to be ministers of the gospel. So, but for a person who may not be fully aware of that or fully embrace that identity of who they are yet, why do they care? Like, and that's what I kept asking God is, why do they care? And there were questions that I had in my mind that I needed solidified and conversations that I needed to have with God before I would bring it to from the pulpit. And one of those was that I knew scripturally that in order, exactly what you said, in order for Jezebel to operate, there has to be an Ahab. However, Jezebel is the one that is specifically mentioned in Revelation chapter 2. And so when it says, but this I have against you, that you tolerate that woman Jezebel. And that, specifically speaking of Jezebel, so we know that Jezebel is a main player in the end times, but where does Ahab come in? And I felt like Ahab was so important. And I knew from experience and from scripture that in order, like you said, in order for Jezebel to operate, there has to be an Ahab. She has nothing if there's no Ahab, but I had to find that in scripture. If Jezebel is mentioned, I was driving down the road, just kind of thinking on this, conversating with God about it. And that's where that word tolerate or allow stood out to me. And I was like, that's Ahab. That's the word or the name Ahab isn't mentioned, but the function of the spirit is completely mentioned right there. So that's what I needed to move forward from the place that I felt like God was showing me, but I needed that piece. I had to have that piece of the puzzle to be able to come from that scripturally. So when in Revelation chapter 2, where the angel of the Lord says, but this I have against you, that you allow that woman Jezebel, that word allow is to just let happen, to not address, to just tolerate it, to make room for it, to we don't want to confront it. So we just kind of tiptoe around it. That is Ahab. That is every characteristic of Ahab. So as has been, from my perspective, is there has been so much focus on Jezebel that it's the way that spirit operates. It operates in smoke and mirrors kind of a thing. Like, I don't know if you've seen, been in the house of mirrors, where you think you're going down a hallway and all of a sudden you run into a wall and it's glass and you didn't know. That's exactly how the spirit of Jezebel works. Is it gets you going in a direction where you think you're going the right way, and then you run into a wall. And in the meantime, she has been, or that spirit has been, completely wreaking havoc and setting up house back here. But in order for that spirit to do that, it has to have an Ahab. And so the way the demonic works is it draws our attention one way so that we think that we're fighting the good fight over here, when in actuality, this is what we really need to be addressing over there. Exactly.
On the other side.
Exactly. It draws your attention in distraction so that it can grow stronger over here.
Yeah.
And wreak havoc over here. And so that's what the two spirits have done, is it's drawn all the attention to Jezebel. Because you could go on Amazon right now and Google books on Jezebel, and there would list upon list upon list of books on Jezebel. The books on Ahab, pretty limited. And kudos to those who have addressed that spirit. I love that, because Jezebel has no authority. She was queen. She was married to King Ahab, but the power and the authority lied with Ahab, the king. The queen didn't have authority upon her own. She was just married to the king. She had a title, but she was married to the king. All of the authority, all of the prestige, all of the influence, all the power lied with the king. So she had to come next to the king, sidle up to the king in order to have authority. So that said, Jezebel can only be fully dealt with if Ahab is dealt with. The Ahab spirit has to be cut off and conquered, dethroned, in order for Jezebel to be dethroned. Because if you just sweep the house of Jezebel, she'll come back. That's the spirit will come back, because there's still an Ahab there. And if there's an Ahab, Jezebel is going to come take up residence.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a really important thing that we, again, in messages that I've heard that's not really talked about, is that Ahab is, you can't have a Jezebel unless you have an Ahab. Ahab is the root of it, but we focus so intensely on, it's like a weed. I mean, like the, what are those big ones that get really tall with the yellow flowers on the end of them? Mustard weed or something like that? Something like that. I don't know. But they're common here in Colorado. I mean, you can see them in cornfields all the time. But I remember we had them really bad out in the pool area. We have a pool area that is not a pool. It's filled in with dirt. So
it was that way when we bought the house.
Yeah. But in that pool area, I remember those mustard weeds would grow up really, really tall and get stalks on them about that big around. I don't know if they're called mustard weed, but for the sake of this video,
we're just going to call them
mustard
that.
weed.
Yeah, okay.
But they had stalks on them about that big around, and I remember they were so deeply rooted that you couldn't get them pulled up. So what me and Riata decided to do, instead of actually pulling them, is we would take the machete and we'd go cut them down like right at dirt level and then bury the roots so that you couldn't see them. But then within a couple of weeks, they'd grow up again. So that's the same exact thing with the Jezebel spirit, is you're so focused on what's above ground that you're going through and you're trying to cut off the head of it, when you're just
the root.
Yeah, the root is what you need.
Yeah.
You can get rid of Jezebel over and over and over again, and it could be from the same source over and over and over again, and you could think that you have it tamed, but you don't until you get down to the roots of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought that was really important to have in the message.
That was the key that I needed, was finding that in Revelation. That was the key. I knew this in my spirit, but I had to have scripture to back it. And so Jezebel, the way that spirit operates is through control and manipulation. And like I said on Sunday, we typically think of that spirit being attached to a woman, because the person that we read about in the Bible was a woman that was, that we see how that spirit operated. But that spirit can operate through a man or a woman. And it is controlling and manipulative and domineering. Its full agenda is to win. It doesn't care how it wins, but it's going to win and control. The whole purpose of winning is to control. And when I say win, I mean win an argument, win a platform, win influence, win power. That's what it's after. Whereas Ahab is very passive. He is, or that spirit, again, it's not a gender specific, but we read about Ahab, and Ahab was a king. And so a lot of times we associate that spirit with the man, but it's not necessarily limited to men. It can operate through, men or women, oppressed men or women. And that spirit is very passive. It kind of has a, just kind of sit back and let other people take care of things. That way they don't have to, they like having the title, they like having a position, but they don't like the responsibility that goes with it. There's a little bit of an entitlement, not a little bit, quite a lot of entitlement that is involved there. Both of those spirits thrive on entitlement. But Ahab wants the accolades, but doesn't want to carry any of the responsibility for that. So you can see that often. Just an easy way to look at that is through someone who uses control or intimidation to, rather than leading people, controlling people. And it works through people, it works through systems, it works through households, it works through government, it works through anywhere where there's a system or a platform. It's susceptible to the Ahab spirit. And I liken it to, and it's not limited to this, so I'm not bashing on anybody when I say this, but what I think of is a man who goes to work and works all day, works hard, puts in his time at work, comes home and just wants to check out. They're exhausted, they're overwhelmed, they're overrun, so they don't come home and lead in their home as men. They don't come home and establish an order in their home. They check out, and as I said on Sunday, they go to their man cave. They're not present as a father, and they're really not present as a husband. They may be there physically, but they're not there emotionally and spiritually. So there's no spiritual leadership in the home. That's where Ahab resides, in the man cave, and Jezebel, that's opening a huge door and making a woman susceptible and victim to Jezebel. Is if a man isn't going to lead, then it leaves it open, and the woman is like, well, if no one else is going to do this, then I have to step up and do it. So then that opens the door and makes that wife vulnerable to being oppressed or possessed by a Jezebel spirit, because the husband isn't leading. He's not protecting his home. He's not being the man of the home. So then she's got to rise up and do it. And she does. And once she does that, then she resents him for not doing it. So she's not going to relinquish that power, because the only reason that she had to step in and do that is because he wouldn't. So, and again, I'm not trying to pick on or, bash anybody in saying that. That's just an example of how that happens.
Well, I think that's a very prevalent example that we're seeing a lot of in our society. Yeah. You made mention of it on Sunday, is the dynamic in sitcom TV shows is the incompetent, idiot, fat husband who can't do jack for his family. Right. And then you have, on the flip side, a really smart, enthusiastic, pretty woman who's running the household, but the man is an idiot. So now that is the dynamic that kids are seeing, that husbands and wives are seeing on the TV, that they're like, okay, this is how this is supposed to work, or this is normal. Yeah. So then you see that idea of normal, and you begin to conform to that idea of normalcy. Whether you're, I would say that it happens probably without people knowing.
I agree 100%, because that's exactly how the spirit works, is it's through deception. And deception means it's not that you're doing it on purpose, it's without knowing. You're being deceived into thinking a certain way. And that was something that Darren's pastor back in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, Pastor Willie George, he said that if they can get you to laugh at it, then you'll accept it. And when you accept it, then you tolerate it. So that's what you said in the sitcoms, is that's where we see it. So we laugh at it and we think it's funny. Yeah. But actually what it is it's demonic. But if we can laugh at it, then it makes it not seem so bad. Yeah. When in reality, it's tearing families apart. It's destroying marriages, which means that it's destroying the foundation and the base that God established in Scripture for a child to be raised in a home where they feel protected, where they have clear guidelines, they have clear boundaries. Children thrive in a home where they know that they are protected, they have clear boundaries, and then that is a place when they have clear boundaries, they have freedom. So and the devil hates that.
Yeah.
He hates that.
Yeah. I think that's what you said, that Pastor Willie George had said, that if they can get you to laugh at it, then they can get you to accept it.
Yeah.
And I think that, man, you gave the example of in Leave It to Beaver. And that Beaver's dad, Ward,
yeah,
was that strong father figure, that he was there. I think of the Andy Griffith Show.
Yes.
I mean, Andy was there for his son, for what was his name? Opie, that's right. He was there for Opie. He was a strong dad. He was a sheriff. He taught his son right from wrong. And I mean, even though it was a comedy show, you still had that strong male presence. You still had that strong father figure.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of the times people don't realize how much that has been swept out of culture, and now we have this opposite of that. Now a big part of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's really sad that that's
it's
what
like normal.
Yeah. Now. Yeah, that's normal.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really interesting point that you made on Sunday.
Yeah.
So like I was saying in the beginning, a lot of the times people, whenever they minister on Jezebel, you hear about it and you basically get told, watch out. She's on the prowl. Be careful of her. And there's nothing that's resolved from it. There's no answer that's given, or not answer, solution. There's not a solution that's given. Yeah. It's just told, be scared. Or that's how I feel it's been portrayed.
Yeah.
This week you gave us a really good, what did I say? It wasn't an answer, it was a solution. And that came in the form of Elijah. And with Elijah, it was just the beginning of the Jezebel Ahab story.
Yeah.
But you were talking about Elijah and how you relate to him, being a smart aleck and being sarcastic. But I would really like to get into that a little bit, because we have been talking about the Jezebel spirit, and we've been talking about Ahab. But now, with the solution that you gave to us, let's dive into that a little bit. And I know that as we go on with this series, there's going to be even bigger solutions, i.e. what was on the back of our t-shirts that we wore with the dogs. But I really want to get into Elijah now and what his role was in this whole Jezebel and Ahab story. So let's go ahead and get into that.
Well, he basically, I don't think he set out to pick a fight, but I think that he knew in the back of his mind when he did this is not going to go well for, this is going to ruffle some feathers. But he didn't back down. And that was the thing that I love about Elijah. He didn't care who it ruffled their feathers, as long as it pleased God. That's all he cared about. And so we read the history plays out in 1st and 2nd Kings, but we read in 1st Kings, we're introduced to a man named Elijah. He was a prophet of God, called and anointed by God to be a prophet. And he declares that there's not going to be any rain because of the evil and the perpetual sin and rebellion that the people, God's people, are in. It wasn't just the world, it was God's people were in this place of just, the best way, then the most blunt way to say it is they were worshiping Satan. When it says that they built an altar to Baal, that is a false god. It's a demonic god. It's a pagan god. So basically they were worshiping Satan. So he declares a drought, and it caused a complete collapse of the culture, the economy. It just imploded everything. And he then says, okay, well, let's see whose God is God. And so in 1 Kings, I believe it's chapter 17, he says all of these prophets, these false prophets, these pagan prophets, 850 of them come and they build an altar to their God on the top of Mount Carmel. And they do this all day long and nothing happens. They're crying out to their God because he says, let's see whose God is real. Let's see whose God is bigger. And so they build their altar. Nothing happens. They cut themselves. They do all kinds of demonic rituals to try to get their God to respond. And literally, Elijah, as I picture him sitting back, like if they had fingernail files back then, he would have been sitting back, like filing his nails, like taking the rough edges off after, being out hunting and stuff. And so anyway, he's just sitting back, letting them do their thing, knowing this is not going to do anything. He wasn't worried. That's what I think is most interesting. He wasn't worried. He wasn't, oh my gosh, what if this happens? What if that happens? He was so confident in who his God is. So at one point he says, well, hey, maybe they're asleep. Maybe that's why nothing is happening. Or maybe your God is sitting on the toilet. Maybe that's why nothing is happening. That's where I think he was just pretty savage.
That's why you relate to him.
I know. I love him. So again, nothing happens. He then builds an altar and places a sacrifice on the altar and then pours water on it to further demonstrate my God's not just going to demonstrate and show up when yours didn't. My God is going to demonstrate and show up exponentially, and yours didn't. So God does come down in fire and consumes the sacrifice, the altar, and the water. And after that, he, what is the word that executes 850 prophets with a sword. Again, that's like, I was going to do the math to think of how long that would take. When I say execute, I'm sure there's some research to say how he executed them.
Let's do
I don't know, did he chop their heads off? Did he, run them through? I don't know. I'm sure there's information on it if someone looks it up.
I would say that he probably chopped their head off. What would you say, 850?
850.
So if there's 24 hours in a day, let's do 850 divided by 24.
Like how long does it take to chop off a head? Like,
it's just a swing.
Yeah,
I mean, if your sword's sharp enough.
I'm thinking Elijah's sword was sharp.
So that's 35 people an hour, which would come down to, divide that by 60. That's, I don't know if I did my math here because I'm not very good at math. That's probably about a person or two people every minute, I think, is what the math is coming down to. I don't know if that's legit or not, but I think that sounds about right. Two people a minute.
A minute? Okay.
That's a lot of swinging that you're doing.
So that lets you know that Elijah was not a weak man.
Mm-hmm.
He was not an emasculated, wimpy, weak man. He was strong.
He's not a wuss.
Yes.
I'll say it.
Okay. He was a man's man. But then at the same time, when you back up from that place, this is the same prophet who went and stayed with a widow who only had enough food to feed her and her son, and then they were going to die. He goes and stays with them, and God multiplies to provide for him and the prophet and the widow during this famine. And so he goes to a woman and takes care of her and her son that otherwise they were going to die. And then her son did die. Well, then he raises her son from the dead. Why would he do that? Because he cared about this widow, knowing this is the only one that she has, which gives us further foreshadowing of later on. Why did he care so much about that son? Because Elijah cared about legacy. Elijah is all about the legacy. He's about the generations. And so that's when, after he annihilated these 850 prophets of Baal, well, he ticked Jezebel off. So Ahab goes home and, like tattletales on Elijah. Can you believe what happened today? So he goes home and tells Jezebel all about it. Jezebel is ticked. So she threatens his life. And the scripture says that he ran for his life, which I would propose, again, that he wasn't running from Jezebel as much as he was running to God. But there's a whole lot there, because he was by a brook and God fed him by the brook. And at that point where he was there at the brook, he was like, I would just as soon die right here, right now. And there's a lot that we could talk about in that. After you do go through a spiritual battle, which he did at Mount Carmel, there is a place where you can feel tired in your physical body, and the enemy sure does like to take advantage of you there. But he wasn't done. God knew that he wasn't done. So God led him and called him on and fed him there at the brook. And it says that from the food that he received there, he went 40 days then to Mount Horeb, which is Mount Sinai, which is where God spoke to Moses. So Elijah, knowing that God came down on the mountain in fire to speak to Moses in this place, that's where he went. He was going to God. So when he gets there, God asks him, what are you doing here? And I don't believe that, and from the way that my study and what I've read in that, I don't believe that God was angry at him. The way that he was asking the question is he's saying, why have you drawn near to me in this place? What are you coming here to ask of me? What do you want, Elijah? So Elijah speaks to him and lets him know backing up, there was a man named Omri that worked for Ahab, served him, but he was a man of God, and he had hid 100 prophets in caves. None of them showed up at Mount Carmel. It was Elijah there all by himself. So I don't know what was going on with them. I don't know why they didn't show up, but that's why it's important to know who's got your back and who doesn't. So anyway, lets God know, I'm the only one. I have served you. I've been faithful to you. And when it came down to cutting, I'm the only one who was willing to cut. Yeah. And none of the rest of them showed up. So God speaks to him then and tells him, go and anoint. And one of the people that he says to anoint is Jehu, which is very important, because then if we fast forward into 2 Kings, we meet Jehu again and we read of him again. And Jehu is actually the person, we're going to talk about that this Sunday. So Unpacking people are the only one who will have this little foreshadowing. But he says, anoint Jehu. So Elijah is the person that God marked to anoint the person who would be the one to ultimately call for the execution of Jezebel and destroy her. So then he also says, go and anoint Elisha in your place. And when he says in your place, what he means is to come up under you. That was God answering Elijah's heart of legacy and generations, that when he dies, that the ministry of the prophet and the passion of God would continue, knowing that the spirit of Jezebel and Ahab would not rule and reign. That was Elijah's heart cry, is God, give us the generations that will serve you, that will not bow to Ahab and Jezebel. And God did that for him through Elisha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in Elijah's story, what would you say is, I feel like for me, what I get from Elijah, hold on, let me get the question out first, and then I'll tell you what I think. In reading about Elijah in the story of Jezebel and Ahab, what would you say was your takeaway from Elijah of how to combat the Jezebel and Ahab spirit? For me personally, whenever I hear about the Jezebel and Ahab spirit, but then having Elijah come in as the caveat to that, to say, this isn't going to stand anymore. What I get from Elijah is to not be afraid of the consequences, the consequences of what's going to happen. Because, I mean, like you said, he fled for his life. He left there knowing, okay, I'm in danger now. So he leaves after standing up to Jezebel and Ahab, after killing their prophets. 850
yeah.
All of them, wasn't it? All of them? So all of the prophets of Baal are now walking around with their wig popped off, they're done. So they ain't around anymore. Mm-hmm. That took some serious guts to be able to stand up and do that, to say, one of my favorite sayings is, if not me, then who? Like, and not in a cocky way, but in a way of confidence.
That's the difference between Elijah and Ahab.
Yes.
Ahab says, if not me, that's somebody else will do it. Mm-hmm. Elijah says, if not me, then who? That's good. Yeah. That's good.
That's one of my favorite things. I was talking to Aaron Havens whenever you were gone. Me and Dad went and met with Aaron. And that was one of the things that Aaron was talking to me about, and that's something that I got was, if not me, then who? Like, God's got you called. If you ain't going to answer it, he's going to have somebody answer it, so it might as well be you.
Yeah.
So, in my mind, that's what I get from Elijah is, if not me, then who? Who is going to stand up to Jezebel? Who is going to be the one to say, enough is enough? It's time that we start cutting heads off, And not in like another thing that I really appreciate you talking about was the idea in our culture now of toxic masculinity. Uh-huh. Do I think that there is a level of toxic masculinity? Of course.
I think, but see, I don't even like to use that term.
I don't either.
I think there are men who don't know how to wield their manhood.
It's little boys. Say that? I mean it. What I'll say this is, it's little boys who never grew up to be the men that are in the men's bodies.
But in a place of fatherlessness, who is training up these boys to be men? Exactly. At what point does a boy become a man? And if he doesn't have a father to show him how to do that, how does he know how to become a man?
Exactly.
That's where Jezebel and Ahab have put us in culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This whole thing of toxic masculinity has turned into a toxic emasculating of the man, where if you aren't the buffoon that is sitting in your recliner with your hand down your pants, you are not a man. And that is not the case at all.
Exactly. Okay, just a little where we're going is when Jezebel does finally meet her end, it is Jehu who rides into town, and she is in her window. And she has put on her best to try to seduce him when he comes into town, because she knows what he's coming for.
Yeah.
He calls for her eunuchs. A eunuch is an emasculated, castrated man. Mm-hmm. It is ultimately the castrated men who throw Jezebel from her balcony, where her body hits the ground and splats all over the place, and the dogs eat her up.
Yeah.
That is the foreshadowing of God returning the leadership and the roar of a man. Yes. Yeah. So I don't know what word, but you could help me with that. For men to have to not be afraid of being a man. It's
a restoration of manhood.
Yes.
It's a restoration of being. Dad's series that he did, gosh, it's been probably 5 or 6 years ago. Where are my Davids?
Yes.
It's the call back to what a man is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Not a little boy in a man's body.
Yes.
But a man. Somebody who knows how to be a father. Mm-hmm. Somebody who knows how to be a husband. Somebody who knows how to protect, how to lead. And not in the way a little boy would, where a little boy would abuse power, where he'd say, you know what, I can have chocolate cake whenever I want to, so I'm going to dine off of chocolate cake all the time. It's knowing that, yes, I can, but I'm going to choose not to.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a good leader for my household.
It's that restraint. What is it that is, it's the meekness.
The meekness. The meekness, bridled strength.
The bridled strength. I was trying to think, what is that word? What is that word? That's what it is.
Yeah. I think that is... I'm really excited for the rest of this series.
I am too.
I can't wait.
I cannot wait. This Sunday, I'll be talking about Jezebel. And then the last Sunday, I'm going to talk about Ahab. I wanted to end with Ahab because if we take care of Ahab, Jezebel's gone.
Jezebel's gone.
Off with her head.
Yeah. Off with the head, like JJ the Boss. I think that's good. I'm really excited.
So this weekend we'll take care of Jezebel. And I'm excited to get further into her story. We had to lay a foundation this Sunday. I felt like we needed to lay a foundation so that we know what we're building on. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, I'm really excited for the rest of it. I'm really excited to hear about Jehu, which you said that's this weekend.
Yes.
I'm really excited to hear about Jehu. I think that he's probably one of the most unsung heroes of the Bible.
Right.
Like, nobody knows about Jehu until you talk about him and you're like, oh, that's that guy.
Yeah.
But
Jehu is used mightily by God. He veers off the path. So we don't necessarily want to follow Jehu's path. That's why I talked about Elijah. Mm-hmm. But Jehu is used mightily. And we praise the Lord for Jehu.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really excited for it. I'm looking forward to it. So now what I want to get into, and we were talking about this before the video. Can I go get the shirt? Where is it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Hang on 1 second. All right. And we're back. I woke my dog up, so if she jumps up here, sorry. But this weekend, we had t-shirts made for this series. And
well, I want to give credit where credit is due, because I was talking to you about what I'm ministering on, and I said, I don't know what to call it. And I think I had something, but I said, I don't really like it. And so I just laid out the series for you really quick, and you said, how about this? And then you shared with me what came to your mind, and I loved it. And it was the word dethroned, because it's removing the king and the queen, the demonic king and queen, off of the throne of our hearts, and then replacing it. And then you said, because you had this word put on the t-shirts, and I asked, okay, what is that? And you said, because it's not something that we do one time in the past. It's not a past tense thing. It's something that we should continually be doing for ourselves and for other people.
Yeah.
That meant a lot to me. I thought that was so good. So I wanted to give credit where credit's due, and you're the one that came up with this.
Well, thanks.
If I got tattoos, I would want a tattoo of this.
I think I'm gonna get it tattooed. I want it right on my leg up here. But Sunday we had t-shirts made for the series, just for us, because we thought it was cool. Because you made the logo for the series, and I was like, I like that. I want a t-shirt of that, because I won't go get a tattoo of it. But I was like, well, I want a t-shirt. Yeah. So it was just our family that we got t-shirts made for. Myself, Lacey, you, and Dad.
Yeah.
And we really like them. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just get more t-shirts made. But then Sunday, I've had probably two handfuls of people ask about these t-shirts. So we are going to do a limited release of these t-shirts. They're going to be made to order t-shirts, and they're going to be exactly like the ones that you saw on Sunday at church. And the word that I chose, or the word that we chose to go with, was dethrone, like the Dethroned series that we're doing. But like Mom said, this is a continual action that we do, that we do continuously in our lives. We don't just dethrone something once. Sometimes we have to work continuously at it, but no matter what, we're dethroning something in order for God to be on the throne of our heart.
Yes, because the scripture tells us that Jesus came to destroy the works of the devil.
Yeah.
So
the purpose behind the artwork.
And this is all original artwork. I'm a proud mom, I just got to say.
This is artwork that I drew, that I stenciled and drew out by hand and everything. But the point of this artwork is to really bring recognition to, the death of something that shouldn't be on the throne. The cracked crown, the skull, and then the dogs are a symbol of what happens to Jezebel, which we'll talk about this weekend. But I mean, Jezebel was thrown out of her castle and splattered on the ground, and the dogs came and licked her blood up and ate her body. So that's the purpose behind the dogs. And then you can read the story of Jezebel in 2 Kings 9:30-37 when that happens. So that's the design on the back. The front is just a really clean pocket logo that says Dethroned, and then it has that 2 Kings verse again. We are going to be doing a limited run of these t-shirts. Again, they're going to be made to order, but we're going to keep it pretty limited.
Just for a short time. And the link, you'll make the link available online for people to be able to get one if they want one. Yeah,
everything is still a little bit of a work in progress. I'd say expect it by, I'd say next week probably.
Okay.
We'll see what we can do
before that.
But we'll put out information for it and everything. Shoot, we may even put up a YouTube video saying, hey, these are available. You can go order them. Like I said, they'll be super limited. The link will maybe be up for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then we'll start getting stuff taken care of for the orders. But we didn't plan on doing a t-shirt or anything, but it's really cool for people to see that and say, I want something like that.
God's giving us boldness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a big thing for me, is that I want it to be a big, bold graphic that people are going to see and want to know about. And then that's a way that you can share Jesus with people, that you can talk about your faith, that you can talk about it naturally with people. So yeah, so stay tuned for that. We'll post it on social media and everything like that. If you want a t-shirt, please be in the know, or stay in the know for it, and we will make sure that you guys, the Unpacking family, that you guys know about it first and foremost, because y'all are faithful to watch week in and week out, and we sure appreciate you guys. So you get the first little tidbit and little bit of a, hey, heads up, we're putting out cool stuff. So that's coming soon for you guys, for everybody, but you guys are going to be, I may see if there's something special that we can do for the Unpacking family.
Maybe we could do that next week for the Unpacking family first.
Yeah, we can put out the link next week. So stay tuned for that, guys. And yeah, it'll be cool. It's exciting. We want to say thank you once again for tuning in to this week's Unpacking video. We'll be back next week with another Unpacking on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Again, if you haven't already, we encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave us a like, and we encourage you to comment also. We want to know what you got from this week's Unpacking video, from the sermon that we unpacked or the topic that we unpacked. We also would love to hear if you have any ideas for us to unpack as well. So leave those in the comments section. Again, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you back here next week, Wednesday at 5 p.m.